Desi Chora from Haryana, scripting a golden chapter in India's sporting history. A feat India waited for 13 years to be repeated. Becoming only the second Indian athlete to win the coveted Olympics gold, but the very first medalist ever in athletics. Neeraj Chopra, all of 23 years, winning a javelin throw men's gold medal in his very first Olympics in 2021. In 2008, Abhinav Bindra was India's first individual gold medalist ever.
I think it has to rate as the greatest achievement by an Indian athlete, individual athlete, with due respect to Abhinav Bindra. I'm calling it a greatest achievement primarily because it is a very athletic feat that he has done. I never imagined in my lifetime that we would see an athletics medal in the Olympic Games. To see it as a gold was even more phenomenal. I think what Neeraj has done is not easily describable in words.
Neeraj capped off a brilliant Olympics campaign for India in 2021. A record 7 medals, from the first ever in athletics to another in hockey after 4 decades. 2 from wrestling, 1 from boxing, 1 from weightlifting and another in badminton from PV Sindhu. These were the Olympics that finally highlighted India's potential with actual medals. The Olympics where India finally unleashed itself, promising much more.
If there were 3 gold medals from shooting which were expected, India would have made it to the top 20. And then top 10 is not very difficult for India to assume. I used to think that top 10 was very tall order. But in 2028, if the same impetus is maintained, I think India can get to that top 10.
India's history at Olympics had been rather patchy since independence. KD Jadhav was our very first individual Olympics medal winner in 1952. Till Leander Paes finally broke that drought in 1996. Then, the likes of Karnam Malleshwari, Rajyavardhan Rathore continued that trend till India finally started winning multiple medals in an edition. 3 in 2008, a watershed moment for Indian sports with Bindra winning our very first individual gold.
I really believe that Leander Paes had inspired India to believe in itself. But somewhere there were errors. We did not have the right kind of training and competition exposure. Maybe the best athletes did not know how to deliver at the highest stage. But Abhinav Bindra's winning gold medal, I think it transformed the landscape completely.
6 in London in 2012. Only 2 in Rio in 2016. And then 7 in Tokyo. Apart from this, most of India's nostalgia at the Games comes from hockey. A love affair that started well before independence. An emotion that was rekindled again in the 75th year of independence. India's hockey history isn't just about the numbers, which now stand at 8 gold, 1 silver and 3 bronze. It is about the joy of the sheer class of its players and their mastery over the stick. It is about the pride of being the best in the world for several decades. Hockey for India is a reminder that Indians can be world beaters, a source of national pride for a young, independent India. The Indian hockey team had already won 3 golds at the Olympics, but the first post-independence came in 1948. In the final at Wembley, Balbir Singh Dosanjh's brace set up a 4-0 thumping of former colonial masters Great Britain as independent India, stressed with destiny on the hockey field, had a golden beginning.
In 1948, the team has been divided. Half of the talent went that side, half of the talent had to migrate here. They have become orphans. So there was a huge task for India whether they can form a team or not. So that was a chance. British initially thought they will not take part in the Olympics, but they thought because the talent has been drained, talent has been shared by the two countries, probably they thought this time they will beat. So they agreed to participate in the 1948 Olympics. This background is very important because in the previous 3 Olympics, British have consciously avoided playing international hockey with India. And that's significant for a country that is just fresh from the colonial rule, 200 years colonial rule. They could still do that too on their own soil, who have ruled them for 200 years. That make a huge psychological impact in India, and expectedly that victory was received with tremendous enthusiasm, like 5 times, 10 times more than how Indian hockey's victory was received after Tokyo bronze medal.
India continued to maintain its vice-like grip on the event for the next 2 editions too, winning a record 6 consecutive golds, a feat no other country has achieved since. In 1960, India were pipped for the first time, that too by Pakistan in the final. This loss was finally avenged in 1964 as the Indian team won its 7th gold overall by beating Pakistan. 2 years later, India also won the 1966 Asian Games gold for the first time by beating Pakistan again. In 1975 came India's first and only World Cup title so far. At the 1980 Moscow Games came India's last gold, but with most big nations boycotting this edition, this gold carried a reduced sheen. Then came the decline and the revival was slow and painful. A revival that received a massive fillip at the Tokyo Games, where India won the bronze, India's first hockey medal at the Olympics after 41 years.
Indian women's hockey team beating the world number 1 team, Australia, who never lost a single match till then, beat in the quarterfinal. Then Indian team, very ironically we are discussing about history, how Great Britain did not treat us well, did not even give us one single medal, one match, international match when Indian team travelled in the colonial era. We beat the Great Britain. Because we lost to Great Britain, we could not qualify for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. So we beat the same Great Britain in the quarterfinal, we reached in the semi-final. So because you are performing well in the Olympics, you were taken very seriously. The people came to know, the young generation especially, who have not seen Indian hockey's glorious pace, they only know Dhyan Chand. So they came to know there is a sport called field hockey, it's vibrant and they are delivering at such a big stage as Olympics.
Hockey's decline in the 1960s coincided with cricket's meteoric rise in India.
The 5th and final test at Madras.
In the 1960s, India had already announced itself on the world stage by winning their first ever test series over England in December 1961 and January 1962 at home. Before winning their first overseas test series in 1967 in New Zealand. Ajit Wadekar and his men stood up to the ferocious West Indies to win their maiden series in the Caribbean in 1971. And the same year, B.S. Chandrasekhar bamboozled the English batsmen in the 3rd and final test of the series in England to win it 1-0, their first on English soil.
This was a very major landmark for Indian cricket because from 1932 to 1971, that's 39 years, India had only once won a series abroad, that was 67-68 in New Zealand under Tiger Pataudi. But New Zealand were one of the weakest teams at the time. England and West Indies were the powerhouses of world cricket. That actually caused, you could say, an explosion of joy and popularity of cricket in India.
And when the time was just right, Kapil's Devils stunned the world by beating the mighty Windies to lift India's first World Cup in 1983.